morning, Bucknutters, and happy Thanksgiving. It's Thursday, November 24th, 2016. I'm Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change Turkey Day edition. We are still joined by the one and only Steve Wolftong. Steve, happy Thanksgiving.
Good morning, Daniel. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I'm excited and I'm fired up because I went and picked up the 4 pies that we're going to be eating today now at this local place. A pecan pie, a pumpkin pie, a sugar cream pie, and a Dutch apple pie. And I tweeted out a picture
sugar
of it.
Cream?
It's scrumptious. I'm ready to get down, Dan. What's your favorite pie? What are you eating this?
We go the traditional apple and pumpkin. My mom is not the greatest chef to walk the earth, but her apple pie recipe would win the county fair, so I'll be eating that as I drift off and watch Zeke run wild over the Redskins.
I'm a big pecan pie guy and banana cream. We don't have banana cream with this haul, but I love pecan pie, Daniel. Love it.
Real banana cream pie is a go-to. Usually you get banana pudding with whipped cream on top, but like real banana cream pie is legit.
Right. With the bananas cut up in the like little discs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of legit, let's talk about the visitors list for Ohio State this weekend. Obviously, the game, about 36 hours away now. Just an incredible array of visitors. As you look at this, it's like a national all-star game. It actually reads like an Under Armour All-American roster. I'm going to read some names off here of some key guys, and I just want to go back and talk about it real quick and your vibes on the guys and what could happen. This list is obviously up on Bucknuts for those who want to check it, but here are the guys on official visits. Cam Akers, Trey Smith, Jay Tufele, Marvin Wilson, Baron Browning, Jeffrey Okudah, Darnay Holmes, Xavier McKinney, and Marquise Bell. Now, there's a few others who are on official visits, but they're already committed, so we're not going to spend too much time on them. So you've got Akers, Smith, Tufele, Wilson, Browning, Okudah, Holmes, McKinney, and Bell. That's literally almost every guy they're going after right now except the Gorman dudes. Let's talk about Cam Akers for a sec. Are you one who thinks they're still in the mix? You've been a little bit out of the group on this.
I've been an outlier with my LSU pick. And I think before we get into Cam, Daniel, I think there's going to be more official visitors that pop up when they get on campus and people verify that they're there, but they're just not being reported right now. So this list I expect to be bigger than what we have right now. And it's already a great list. And I expect a couple more great players to be mentioned. So stay tuned to Bucknuts when Alex and Bill, or maybe me, maybe I'll get it myself. But I think that there'll be more. But with Cam Akers, I have LSU as my pick. If Ed Orgeron and company are retained, I think that they have a great shot to sign Cam Akers. With Ohio State, I think they're in the top three or four. There's a lot of Ole Miss buzz. I mean, he could end up at Ole Miss. I'm not ruling it out. I just haven't made that pick myself. Florida State, certainly confident down there in Tallahassee. Ohio State and LSU have great depth chart situations. When you're talking about a team that Cam Akers is going to walk in and there's going to be a junior that's high profile that you can come in and rotate with and then have a chance for it to be your show down the road.
Or a
big visit here. Sure. Big visit here for Cam. Cam, I think that this visit's also about getting Cam Akers' family comfortable with going a little further away from home. You know, I think that there's some people in his family that have some reservations towards traveling by air. So this is a trip to get people comfortable with, hey, it's not that far. And you have tremendous opportunity here at Ohio State on the field and off it, you know, and let's not let some details get in the way of a great situation. Tony Alford's working his butt off here. You know, Urban Meyer is. He's such a priority recruit for the Buckeyes at one of the few positions of need within the program. So they've been to Columbus before, so they get it, you know, but just reminding them, hey, you don't have to pick the school closer to home if the better fits in Ohio. And so getting Cam getting Cam around the guys in the locker room, getting him around the people, getting his family around the other parents, the other Ohio State parents, all things that they're going to be excited to do this weekend.
They should get used to air travel, considering the fact they're about 3 years away from Cam playing for a team that's either in Minnesota or San Diego. I guess he could, when you make the pros, you can have your family come live with you, but still, you want to go to road games. Let's get on the bird. Let's go rapid fire here. Just a couple sentences on the rest of these guys after you hear their name. Jay Tufeli.
I think Ohio State's got a great shot. Michigan, Washington, some of the other players, nation's number 2 defensive tackle per 24/7 Sports. He loves Larry Johnson. Urban Meyer's working hard here. Ohio State's going to have a great shot to land Jay Tufeli.
Marvin Wilson, defensive tackle from Bel Air, Texas, the classic 300 and some odd pound plugger we have not gotten.
Yeah, nation's number 1 defensive tackle per 24/7 Sports. Started out as a basketball player when he entered high school, transitioned to football quickly because of the measurements that you mentioned. His coach told me he grew up an Ohio State fan. LSU, Texas, with some of the major players early in the fall. Texas A&M has definitely made a move with Marvin. We'll see what Ohio State can do this weekend. Mom's key with Marvin as well.
Gotcha. Baron Browning. Now, I've got some information coming out later today in the later yesterday on Baron Browning that people are going to check out. But your vibe on Baron.
So go back and read it.
Yeah, go back in the time machine, read it. You already have read it, but now what do you think?
Well, I haven't read it because it hasn't happened yet.
I know, but you're an expert. Right, you don't need to read it.
Yeah, no. I respect all. There's people I respect that makes me go back and do try and do my diligence again. Right now, my crystal ball is on Baron Browning. It's no surprise or no secret. I think Alabama. Yeah, what did I say? I think Alabama's the crystal ball's on. I think Alabama's the team to beat right now for Baron Browning going into the visit. But I think Ohio State's got a shot to land him, and even a better shot than I thought a couple months ago. So we'll see what happens this weekend. I know that around the Woody, they feel good coming into it. But my intel, says Alabama right now is the team to beat for the number 1 linebacker in the country, perhaps, in Baron Browning. There's 30 freaks at the position. Baron Browning, Dylan Moses, Willie Gay. There's better athletes than everybody else at that position right now.
Jeffrey Okudah, he's still awesome.
Buckeye.
Yeah.
Darnay
Holmes?
Yeah. I think he's going to UCLA. Ohio State's had him on campus many times. Obviously, he likes Ohio State, but I just think when it's all said and done, he's going to UCLA.
I don't expect Xavier McKinney or Marquise Bell to be Buckeyes. I assume you don't. So let's move on.
I will say this with Xavier McKinney. You're right. I got him in the same, as confident as I am about Okudah. I'm the same with McKinney and Clemson. With Marquise Bell, I know that, talking to people around Marquise and talking to other folks, Greg Schiano loves him. So they're gonna try hard to recruit him and land him. So we'll see what happens this weekend.
All right, I'm going to let you go here in a minute. But of the guys from 2017 that are unofficials, we don't really have to worry about that. And the 2018 kids, do you see a possibility for a commitment this weekend? If you were going to rank, let's say, the top 3 most likely Buckeye commitments, we'll end on this.
I don't have the list
if they were going to happen this weekend.
I don't have the list in front of me. I'm going to try and scroll quickly to the front row. So as I do this, off the top of my head, I know there's guys that I have expecting to visit.
Yeah, you can include the 2017 guys too, but the 3 most likely guys to commit.
Well, I don't know who's going to commit this weekend, but guys that I have in 2018 off the top of my head that are here's an updated list. See, I got here. Boom. Bill Kierley coming through, my man. Cameron Babb's a guy that I reported is going to be there 2018. I think he's Ohio State's top receiver target in the 2018 class. I already have him crystal ball to the Buckeyes. Vertus Brown, an offensive lineman from Chicago, number 1 player in Illinois. I could definitely see him at Ohio State. Jeremy Ruckert is the top tight end on Ohio State's board. He's out of Connecticut, or he's out of that area. I may have butchered that. I apologize, Jeremy. In fact, I want to get it right now. He may be the top tight end in the country. He's out of Lindenhurst. He's out of
New York.
Lindenhurst, New York. Yeah. So excuse me. He could easily end up being a Buckeye at some point. Blue Smith, I certainly could see. Jalen Gill, I think, will end up at Ohio State. Jackson Carman, I'd be very surprised if he didn't go to Ohio State. He's an elite target for the Buckeyes, a 5-star offensive tackle. Dallas Gant, I think, is going to end up at Ohio State, the number 1 linebacker in the state. He'll eventually be a Buckeye. And that's with the list in front of me. So those are the guys I think they have the best chance at. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and that's not only is it an impressive list of dudes, they have the character actors or the character witnesses there too. Emory Jones will be there. That's huge. You're going to have all the Ohio guys, the Oates, Gant, Warner, all those guys are going to be there together. You've got LaChristian Smith. You got some guys from IMG coming down. So should be a very impressive haul. Let's hope the Buckeyes take care of business on the field and show them how to do it. We appreciate Steve stopping by. We stay tuned for a talk with Ira Weintraub, Michigan Insider. We are thrilled to welcome in an old friend of mine, Ira Weintraub. You may know him as the program director, co-host of the Michigan Insider, which you can hear from Monday through Friday, 6 to 10 a.m. on WTKA in Ann Arbor. Ira, long time no talk. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, buddy. How are you guys?
Ira is a proud DMV native, but we won't spend much time talking about that or our kids, as I am wont to do. But Ira is also the insider on Michigan. He's been hosting the morning drive there for some time. So, Ira, I got to start with the one question that we were actually having a conference call with the staff earlier and trying to figure it out. Give us the official Ira Weintraub medical diagnosis of Wilton Speight.
All right, I can't get into too many specifics of what I actually know, but what I will say is this. If he will do whatever it takes to play in the game on Saturday. I expect him to play. It's his non-throwing shoulder. It's a shoulder injury. I won't get into too many more specifics, but if you said to me you had to make a bet one way or the other would he play or not, I would bet that he'd play.
Really?
Give him a
shot.
Are
you in favor of that?
Put a shot in his shoulder. Absolutely. He has been, now he didn't play great against Iowa, obviously, but he has played pretty well all season. He's gone through what we refer to as the Harbaugh trajectory of quarterbacks as he started the year and got better week to week to week. And the injury that he had is very similar to an injury that Chad Henne had his senior year. And for the majority of that year, Chad was fine. Now, for Henne's injury, it was the throwing shoulder. For Speight, it's the non-throwing shoulder. What eventually happened with Chad, though, is that they gave him a bad shot, and they hit the nerve in his shoulder, and it screwed things up. But again, it was a throwing shoulder. I expect Wilton to take a shot or whatever it is that they do to get you ready. I expect him to play.
How much of that do you think is affected by how good O'Korn is or how good he isn't?
I think it's 100% has to do that Wilton Speight wants to play. I really do. I don't think that has anything to do with O'Korn. I think that they were very conservative in the last game because it was O'Korn's first start at Michigan. The weather, you guys experienced similar weather earlier in the day when you guys were in East Lansing. So the ball was a little slick, and they were concerned about that too. And then in the second half, the offensive lineman told the coach, let's pound the ball. Let's just run it. And so they took the ball out of O'Korn's hands for the most part. But I don't think that Wilton's decision to try to play, because he warmed up before the game last week, he just wasn't quite able to go. He wants to play, and if he can play, he's going to be out there.
So the conspiracy theorists who say Speight was just warming up to give the other coaches something to think about, you don't buy that. You think Speight really does have a legitimate chance to play.
Absolutely. From what I was told, what we were told was it was a 1 to 3 week type of injury, and the one was going to be very difficult to reach, but that was last week. And we expected him back this week. The original injury that people were reporting, a broken collarbone, I thought he was done. I thought he might have been done for his career because he had a bad collarbone injury in high school that he lost a year of high school.
Right,
he actually
right.
ended up playing an extra year. But it's not a collarbone injury. It's something different. It's a non-throwing shoulder. It's not a game. I mean, Harbaugh does like some gamesmanship stuff, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that's what this is.
Okay. We'll take your word for it. Since the loss to Iowa, I mean, Michigan was definitely cruising, both from I'm sure a local, but also from a national perspective. And then the Iowa loss kind of knocked some bloom off the rose. They fell behind Ohio State in the rankings, both rankings. Do you get the vibe that things have changed since then? Did that really pop the balloon, or are they looking at that as an aberration?
I think it's more of the second. It's an aberration. The example that we use as a parallel, you guys probably are familiar with this one, is last year with Michigan State. They went to Nebraska, who finished 5-7 on the year. They lost that game in Nebraska. And I remember all of us here saying they're done. They're not going to the playoff. They're going to go to Columbus and lose, and et cetera, et cetera. We know how that obviously played out differently. And I look at it as the same kind of thing where you have a game against a team that you're supposed to beat on the road in a tough environment, and you don't play a very solid game. In fact, a pretty poor game for the most part, at least offensively. And it kind of snaps you a little bit and kind of wakes you up and refocuses you. I think that was, you don't want to lose, and by losing, it takes them out of the position that you guys are basically in now, that you can get into the playoff without winning the Big Ten. But I think it woke them up to the point that it did allow them to go back to the drawing table and say, all right, we've been winning a lot of games. We've won a lot of games by a lot of big scores. But against tougher competition, we have to do X, Y, and Z better. And it allowed them to get those players, not that they weren't focused, but I think get them even more focused.
All right, let's start talking about Saturday. When you look at the Buckeyes, from what you know of Michigan, what is your greatest concern?
Curtis Samuel. Watching him, wherever they line him up, Samuel's speed. If they line him up in the slot, how's he matched up? If they put him on the outside, how's he matched up? How do they use him to set everything else up? Because to me, that the speed to the outside, what he can do can hurt, whether it's Michigan, who has a great defense, or anybody else. He is super talented. I know that Mike Weber can do certain things in that run game, and J.C. Barrett is a pass-run threat. But to me, Samuels is the ultimate guy that I'm concerned about in that game, because get him a little bit of space. Just like if Jabril Peppers touches the ball, right? You get a little bit of space, you're gone. And that is the biggest concern for me going on the game.
Since you brought him up, I'm fairly confident that this is Jabril Peppers' last year in Ann Arbor. Is it fair to assume that this is the game where they're going to we could see a little bit more of him, they could pull out all the stops kind of thing, or do you think it's going to be the standard Peppers approach?
I expect them, I think the quote, it was either from Jabril or Jordan Lewis on Harbaugh's radio show last night, and they basically said everything in the bag is available, to use the golf analogy. I expect all the things that we've seen them do, you're going to see either similar looks and them do it again, or you're going to see similar looks and they're going to do a take off of that play, the counter to that play, if you will, so that if you're expecting it to be a read option to one way, it becomes a quarterback sweep the other way or a pass the other way. I expect them to open things up, and things that we've seen them do or things that we've seen them tease are going to be available to them. And one of the staples that Jim Harbaugh's offense has been for the majority of this year, and the last week in particular is the exception, is that maybe from week to week it's about 20 or 30% of the same plays. And then you have maybe the next 20 to 30, 40% are completely new looks and everything. And then the rest of it are looks that you've seen, but a totally different play off of it, like bringing a guy on a jet sweep, but instead of handing it off to him, he stops, pivots, and takes a screen pass the other way. We saw that about a month ago, and they had run jet sweeps with that the whole year, and then you see a counter to it. So I expect everything available, whether it's for Jabril or anybody else. I'm really curious to see what we see that we haven't seen yet, because there are quite a few opportunities out there for them to do a lot of different things that we haven't seen.
Of the stuff that they've done well, where do you see the matchups that favor Michigan? We talked about maybe having trouble with Curtis Samuel. Where on offense or defense do you think Michigan may have a real advantage?
Well, I think that both teams have the same advantage in the same place, which is going to make this game really interesting, because both secondaries, the corners, are so good on both teams. I think Pro Football Focus has them as the top 4 corners in the country, which is a remarkable thing that they're going to all be in one game. Because I would say that the Darboh, Chesson, Butt trio, if Speight at quarterback, provides a unique set of circumstances for other people to have to game plan against, because they're all so talented. I don't know if I see a lot of advantages in either side, as much as if either coach can find that matchup. So if it's Curtis Samuel against a linebacker, if it's Jabril Peppers against a linebacker, if it's Eddie McDoom off, against a linebacker or a safety, or you spread out to run up the middle and you're loosening the box a little bit. I think that this is the ultimate chess match game because I think both teams defensively are really sound. I think maybe Michigan's linebackers are not quite as good as they need to be at times. I think Ohio State's linebackers are very good for the most part, so maybe a slight advantage there. But I think both teams play such good defense. I think both teams have such unique weapons on offense that it's the ultimate chess match who can actually take advantage here or there. And I'm not sure there's a lot of advantages either way, but someone's going to create one in a mismatch. Maybe it's a 4 tight end set for Michigan or a 5 wide receiver set for Ohio State that just gets someone in a mismatch, and then the team that gets that mismatch takes advantage of it.
There are so many players on Michigan that come from the state of Ohio that in some bizarre way, when Michigan does well, we in Ohio take credit for it because you're using so many of them. Do you get the vibe from the players that matters a lot?
We heard from Jake Butt, Chris Wormley, those guys that came from Ohio. There were 3 or 4 of them at the press conference yesterday, and they talk about it because they hear about it when they go home. This game, obviously for them, is a game they've grew up watching and a game they grew up caring about. And for some guys like Jake Butt, he might have been a fan on one side until he didn't get recruited by that one team, and you're a fan, you're on the other side. And they take it very personally. And to not have a win, just like the state of Michigan guys that did not have a win over Michigan State took it very personally and got that win earlier this year. The state of Ohio guys take it very personally, especially if they weren't recruited by Ohio State, that they want to get a win over them. It's the thing I love about this game because Michigan has always, from Bo through now, they've always recruited well in Ohio. They've always had solid players from Ohio, Charles Woodson, et cetera. And those guys have always brought that extra something to this game. And I'm hoping that's, obviously the Michigan fans up here are hoping that's the same case this time.
We'll talk about the playoff afterwards. I was considering on how to structure these questions. So give me your prediction on the game and give me a score.
Well, I haven't, we usually save our predictions, and actually I take myself off the hook. I'm the host of the show, and I let my other guys make the picks, and I usually don't pick it. And my philosophy generally is if I think Michigan's going to get blown out, I won't pick a game. If I think Michigan's going to win in a blowout, I'll give you a big score. And if I think the game's going to be close, whether I think Michigan will win or Michigan would lose in my pick, I'm going to pick Michigan to win because I think it's going to be a close game. And in this case, I think it's going to be a really close game. I give Michigan like a 40-45% chance to win in a close game. But because I'm going to stick by my principles, I'm going to say 28-24 Michigan. But I think it's going to be one of those last possession kind of games. But I remember in 2006 thinking, wow, these two teams play such great defense. We're going to have a low-scoring, typical Big Ten affair where it's going to be 17-14, and we all know what the score turned out to be and how many points were put on the board. So I can go now and tell you I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, but I'll probably be wrong.
Hypothetically now, I can't say I'm shocked you picked Michigan. Let me say hypothetically here. I'm just looking for your opinion on this. Let's say hypothetically Ohio State wins, okay, in a good game, and Penn State beats Michigan State, okay? For the college football playoff, do you then believe Ohio State deserves to be in it if they would win?
If Ohio State wins, I don't see how they don't go to the playoff. I've had this conversation with a lot of people, and as you can imagine, if I'm in some way, shape, or form defending Ohio State up in these parts, people kind of look at you funny. But you have to look at things with clear lenses. You can't have your maize and blue glasses on or your scarlet and gray glasses on. You have to look at it clearly. And the fact is, Ohio State's had a great season. They lost one game in a close game on the road against a team that is in the top 10. And I don't see how the committee, no matter what the final score is in the game on Saturday, whether it's close, a blowout, or whatever, if Ohio State wins that game, I don't know how the committee can put in, I know Penn State beat them, but I think Wisconsin's going to beat Penn State. So that would obviously help the cause for Ohio State because that would give Penn State another loss and take them out of the conversation. And you guys beat Wisconsin just like we did. So I don't know how you can keep Ohio State out of the playoff if they beat Michigan. And the way I look at it is really simple. The winner of the Michigan-Ohio State game goes to the playoff. Maybe Michigan needs to win the Big Ten title game too, but probably the winner of the Michigan-Ohio State game is in the playoff. Alabama is in the playoff. Clemson, unless they choke in their next couple games, Clemson is in the playoff. And then it's the fourth spot. And I'm not sold on Washington getting in over a Big Ten champ if it's Wisconsin. I'm not sold on Washington even winning their next couple games. They could lose the Apple Cup. They could lose to Colorado. I think Ohio State, to get back to your first question, I think if Ohio State beats Michigan, they deserve to be in the playoff, and I'd put them there.
See that, Bucknutters? There are rational, right-thinking people who have migrated to Ann Arbor. Ira is one of them. We greatly appreciate him taking some time. Have a good one, brother.
Anytime, buddy.